Happy Saturday night, everybody. A second to load up. All right. Let's get back up to speed here. If you don't know what I'm talking about here, if you're in harness racing, you probably know about the Per Angblom 380-day suspension for the positives, 2 class 2 and 1 class 1 drug. He went through the process, appeal through NJRC, split sample came back confirming the initial tests. Then he went to the State Superior Court Appellate Division looking for a ruling. As of right now, that ruling was a recommendation made back in March, where the NJRC stood its ground, and that's where it's been ever since. The recommendation from the appellate hearing judge was that based on what they found, but we still don't have rock solid evidence of how this could have been some kind of mitigating circumstances. The recommendation was to lower it to 90 days. Okay. NJRC said, nope. They had a hearing. They stood on their 380 days. And that's where we've been ever since. I wasn't completely up to speed on how this is working. So this has just been in limbo ever since. Now, where it gets sticky is, people are angry, the honest people, because they're like, why? How does this always happen? These guys keep getting away with it. People that are banned forever get back in. People that get 5 years end up with 3. People that have a year, 3 months, 90 days, 30 days, whatever, get to take when they're the big guys, there's favoritism. If you're a little guy, you don't stand the shot, take your day, shut up, eat it. That's the end of it. Okay, this is true. But on September 2nd in DRF, Jeff Gural made a statement regarding Per Angblom that he does not trust anybody, and that if he is not able, he's had plenty of time, and if he is not able to have this ruling reversed, I'm going to keep repeating that. He already knew about the 90-day ruling, or not ruling, a recommendation by the appellate judge. And maybe he thought that this was going to be finalized one way or the other and remedied, where he gets something that if he does not have this reversed by December 31st, 2025, a few days ago, he would not be able to race at his tracks, right? Well, he raced how many last night? And he's got a bunch in tonight, right? So this is where me, again, the dummy, fighting for the little guys in the game, because I know how it feels. And I thought Jeff Gural was the man who's looking out for us, right? Jeff, you took it personally and you started slinging mud. Turns out that when Jeff Gural doesn't get his way, he gets angry. He's angry at me. I'm going to read you some of the emails. And he also says, go ahead. He thought I was going to side with him on this. No. He actually advocated for Per Angblom and contacted the NJRC direct and said to them, in his words, if I could get him to agree to a 90-day suspension, would they agree so we can put this to bed? Now, are any of you afforded that same luxury? I've never heard of it from a track owner or management, where after the fact, no matter how they investigated and ruled on their recommendation, in my opinion, your job is to stay out of this. So he says they were being unreasonable and they gave me no explanation. Well, the explanation, Mr. Gural, is he tested positive for 2 class 2 drugs and 1 class 1. That's their explanation. The same explanation that everybody else that serves a suspension for whatever it is that they've been penalized gets. There's your explanation. There's a man out here who's serving 10 years at 73 years old, for coming up positive with a 17 times over the dose of cobalt. Now, that doesn't make sense, but it happened, and he's responsible because there's been nothing else to dispute that. Not so dissimilar here, where they're only talking about the one drug anyway, the class 1, not the 2 and 3. 3 different positives on the same horse. I got to check this because I'm waiting on an answer from another individual who's having trouble. Let's see what this is. Okay. This is regarding you, Mr. Cody, by the way. That answer right there. We're going to get to that. Another individual who's been screwed over. Bear with me. I need to know. And they know. Where am I live? Horseman. Anyway. So where do we stand now? So I got a few more emails later that night after I did the live stream. And Jeff is mad at me. So we actually got into like a little bit of a battle. Let me make it clear, like I said to him, Jeff, I don't work for you. I don't take any orders from you. I respect you. I said this to a friend of mine the other day. Remember Godfather 2? Your father did business with Hyman Roth. Your father respected Hyman Roth, but your father never trusted Hyman Roth. That's the way that I feel. I don't trust you because like you said in your own statement to DRF, trust nobody. There's real good reason to not trust anyone, but you're supposed to set the example. So then I sat down, and I've been getting pretty good at writing statements and speeches now, what I'm doing in the city, with the help of some online aides. So I'm going to read this first. This is directed to Jeff Gorell. Regarding your decision to advocate to the New Jersey Racing Commission to reduce Per Engbloom's 380-day suspension after a horse in his care tested positive for 3 different drugs. It is not just misguided, it is indefensible. And I mean that. You cannot claim to be a champion of integrity and horse welfare while simultaneously lobbying to shield a trainer tied to multiple drug positives from meaningful accountability. We'll get into that later, like the 33 that were excluded. That is hypocrisy, Jeff. Plain and simple. Because not everybody gets that same privilege from you or anywhere, because they shouldn't. When a trainer is hit with a suspension of that magnitude, it is not accidental. It reflects serious violations that put horses at risk. We forget about the horses, don't we? They're the ones that endure this shit. Last year, your CEO reminded me that when he was going to check another horse who dropped dead at the half-mile pole, a mare, and I warned him literally step by step how it would happen, that this is going to happen. His words, and you can ask Jason Settlemore, Jeff, because you play this other thing that, oh, I don't know what my team, that you got, he says that in some of these emails. Ask them. He plays Babe in the Woods. You know exactly what's going on. You're way too intelligent, way too successful to try to get that by me. You know everything that's going on at your properties, any of your businesses, and your racetracks. Stop. But he knew I gave him a heads up, and he said that he was thinking about me as he was driving to the backstretch and then found that mare dead on the backside. Boom. That's really what I care about first. I know most of the people, and maybe even you included, you know, they're just a vessel to the end game, which is money and trophies. It reflects serious violations that put horses at risk, distort competition, and erode public trust in this sport. You're always putting out these public, press releases crying about people that don't want to race at your racetrack, the horsemen not backing you up, the horsemen not filling your boxes, horsemen banging on your door, looking for more money, that, that when everybody starts racing again, handle goes down, all the complaints. But I never expected you to be part of the reason or problem that leads to those results. The public, the few bettors, the bettors that you have left, And the only reason that you are getting the handles that you do is because it is the Meadowlands name recognition. Like anything else that's successful, people associate the best of harness racing with that name, but you're not giving them the best in harness racing. That's for damn sure. Yet instead of standing with the regulators who finally imposed real consequences, NJRC did its job this time. You chose to stand with the violator and argue that the 380 days should somehow become 90. These same regulators you regularly accuse of not doing their job, like last year when you stood in front of them. And I'm with you on this. Everything that I've been talking about and airing, that those regulators, commissions, USTA, AgCoast, Interbred Canada, everyone had knowledge of and had either read through what the FBI did, and nobody moved on it. I feel as though you feel that you've been slighted about that because you did have a lot to do with that. And where did it go in the end? That is not leadership, Jeff. That's enabling. And you just made, if this guy ends up with 90 days, and here's another question. When is he going to serve them? And this is a question for the NJRC. So is this still stuck in the appellate court? Is there going to be a hearing, another round, arbitration? What's going on with this endless appeal that started back in 2023? It's now 2026. And this guy is still racing and crushing everybody at the weakest point of the Meadowlands meet, where traditionally, recently, this is when people can come from other tracks, little guys, get their foot in the door, be able to race at the Meadowlands. I talked about this the other day. Owners that normally don't get to. It's pretty cool to be able to race at the Meadowlands, get in the winner's circle if you're lucky enough. And you got this guy over there just raking money in, because how can they compete against him? It's not even close. And we'll talk about, is this good for Meadowlands and harness racing in general? Industry leaders should be sending a clear message that drug violations, especially involving multiple substances on one horse, just this one horse, why this one horse, will not be tolerated under any circumstances. We used to say trainer responsibility. Now it's, I think the groom was high or took a leak in the corner of the stall. This is the new defense. If you make this stick, you've set a precedent for these people to just walk away from every positive. All you're going to need is a groom to say, yeah, I got a drug addiction. I've been taking this stuff that no human being would be taking in 3 different, and then the amount that comes up, come on. Instead, your actions suggest that rules are flexible for those who have the right connections, the right alliances, and the right level of influence. And the reason that I can say that is, at that meeting that you say that I had, that I was wrong on every level for what I did by protecting myself and recording it, your CEO brought up the fact that, and it's clearly said, by the way, that I was costing the Meadowlands money in sponsorship, specifically guys like Steve Jones that were pulling the money, advertising, sponsoring races, stakes races and such. And that's my fault. The guy that's not afraid to call people out, transparency and accountability. I thought for sure that would have been the last thing I would hear from your team, as you call them, in your emails. The horses did not get a voice in this. They are the ones whose bodies absorb the punishment when chemistry replaces horsemanship. When you minimize the seriousness of these offenses, you're not supporting the industry. You are protecting a system that rewards those willing to gamble with the welfare of the animals, and willing to gamble by slighting everybody else, the public, the other horsemen, you, commissions, the laws, the rules, anything that it's going to take. Because what do we talk about? Deterrent? You said that we also agreed that it seemed to get worse after the FBI put these guys in prison, some of which came up positive with you. I'm going to read that too, that are now back racing at the Meadowlands. and have tripled down on it. Where's the deterrent? What do they say? Sometimes crime does pay. Well, you're enabling that. If you truly believe in integrity, then prove it, not with press statements, not with slogans, but by refusing to advocate for individuals who violate drug rules and undermine everything honest trainers work for. Because once you hand the lines over and you're racing against these guys, you got no shot. And they're afraid to say anything because, like me, and what happened with your team, you would rather attack and try to punish us and let the status quo when it comes to abusing the system and the animals continue. When you do make a promise to the honest horsemen of the sport, live up to it. You lied. You lied in everyone's face. I don't know, maybe you thought that this was just going to disappear over time. People were going to forget because nobody was talking about it. I brought it up last week, resurrected it. That remember, next week's the 31st. And then that other forum brought it up right after that because they read my group. They even used my screenshot. But the point is that when it gets that bad that even my haters agree with me, something's wrong or something's right. I'm right for once. You cannot have it both ways. Either you stand with the horse welfare, accountability, and the future of this sport, which you're always screaming about, or you stand with those who jeopardize it. Right now, your actions place you on the wrong side of that line. I'm sorry. Because show us where we're wrong. Show everybody that's lost money this past weekend racing against this individual who should either be serving 380 days or, like you promised, not racing at your racetracks at all. Because when does it end? You said it yourself. He had a long enough chance. It's got to be reversed by the 31st. Instead, you went to bat for him. I haven't seen you go to bat for any individual horseman. I have a question, though. You're acting as though you're like somewhat of a horseman's representative. And I thought of this just a couple hours ago, almost like you work for the SBOANJ. And then I thought of something. We haven't asked you what happened with that settlement. Is that going to be posted? Transparency for the members of that group, that horseman association, by either you or anyone that was involved? The $200,000 that got the Breeders' Crown? Those dates from Monmouth? Nobody's talking about that. But I know it was settled out of court. And now you're acting like you're part of them. You've never done that. What's going on? I actually saw another guy post how, Per Engblom's a smart guy. Well, we never heard of him, and he never trained a pacer up until just a couple of years ago after other individuals lost their licenses and or were kicked out of Yonkers Raceway. And we know the connections. I've gone over it. I've made it pretty damn clear. And I mean, even Helen Keller, Stevie Wonder, and Ray Charles could see it. But apparently, you've gone blind lately. Where the connections are, who's behind all this. And we're going to talk about that individual and Bryce Cody in a few minutes. That being Josh Marks. And again, how the little guys will be attacked and held accountable for things that they haven't done, while others continue to be able to operate and to prosper. So what does this all mean? Right now, it means nothing changes. We're gonna quickly get back to normal, where all the racetracks are gonna start racing again. You'll get less entries until the championship meet starts and all the bigger drivers come back. The big trainers come back and are filling your boxes, and they're just raking money in until this all reboots again next year, going into the winter. Will by then, Mr. Gural, will there have been some sort of finalization with the punishment that Per Engblom is supposed to serve now that you've injected yourself into this basically as a judge and or advocate, asking directly of the NJRC? This is twice you've done this that I know of. I won't talk about the other time. For them to do something that you recommend. Jeff here, 2 other emails he sent me later. Now, I want to repeat so there's no mistaking here. Where you say, if you do bring it up, I hope you will tell the people what happened. Okay, well, here's what you said, and I'm going to tell them what happened. He asked me if I read the reasoning for recommending the days. Trying to make me look bad on integrity front is a disgrace. No one cares besides me. Well, I think you still do, but I think I don't think you understand the crowd. I don't think you understand, I guess, your horsemen, that they're sick and tired of this. Because if it were them, none of this would be talked about. They'd be serving their days, paying their fines, and have to eat it. They don't have the means to go this far and abuse the system or use the system. Okay? That's why they're afraid to fight back, because they're afraid of not just other horsemen, they're afraid of the commissions, and they're even afraid of you. And this is why. Because how many times are people punished when they've done nothing wrong? And we're going to talk about that in a few minutes regarding a former leading driver at Tioga Downs who's no longer driving at Tioga Downs. So he says to me, now we're fighting like children. Doubt I will respond going forward. Yet you did. NJRC has tons of info that shows the current licensee should have has licenses, that current licensees. Now we're doing this guy did something and is still racing. You're doing the same thing, Jeff. Look at your list of 33 who were banned from Meadowlands Racetrack. And now most of them are back in. 60 Minutes. Your own words when they asked you, what do you feel? What, in your opinion, when a new trainer, one of these guys gets a horse and they improve by 3 seconds, 4 seconds, whatever it is, right? Your exact words were, it's impossible. Well, it's not impossible. It's when it gets to that kind of percentage of animals that just improve drastically and ridiculously, whatever you want to say, it's not impossible. It's just how you're doing it. But now you're using the excuse, well, these other guys, well, you haven't really stood your ground there either, as evident by some of the guys that are racing at Meadowlands Racetrack tonight, as evident by another individual who was on that list. And now that individual splintered off into 3 different stables of the same family, including the father. I just assumed you would agree. Wrong. Don't ever assume anything with me, because I'm going to fight for the little guys. That you don't have to assume. I'm not giving the benefit of the doubt that to these guys that are batting 400, and every horse that enters their barn ends up triple or quadruple jumping, slicing off 3-4 seconds from everyone who's ever owned them before or trained them before. A guy with 100 plus horses in his stable, that every horse, we say every horse, very small amount that don't. Why do you think people go to him? Why do you think he bills the way he can get what he does? And this is another thing. Owners are no angels in this either. They know where they're going there, and they know what they're going to get. They don't give a shit about the horses. They just want to make money. You assume that I would agree that not following recommendation. Remember what your words were before, and you already were aware of this. You told everybody that if he didn't have this reversed, meaning the 380, he wouldn't be allowed to race at your tracks after December 31st. It's what you said. If you didn't say that, we wouldn't even be having this discussion. Nobody would be questioning it. They'd just be screaming at the NJRC. Or how is the system? It's so busted. It's broken. These guys can just keep racing on appeal. At the center of your winner circle, last I was there, all the banners down the stretch on the fence, and then around the winner circle. Which one is dead center? Do I need to say it? He goes, we're governed by laws. Right. He broke them. And these aren't technically aren't the NJSC are rules and their charter and their bylaws, right? He went to the state, was given a recommendation, not unlike Charlie May, and the NJRC stood its ground because they can. And that's where we are now. And you're upset. My question is, why? Why are you upset, Mr. Corral? Why are you upset that Per Engblom has not been able to have his days reduced to 90 days? I want you to do one of your famous press releases and explain that to the horsemen, not to me. I've got nothing to gain or lose here. The only time I've gained or lost anything is when your team tried to have me arrested. How'd that work out? Like you said, there are laws. There's a constitution in this country. Maybe you should read it. And you're allowed to disagree without slinging the shit. Because here you say, obviously you tried to make me look bad, which is pretty stupid. What's that supposed to mean? Who are you? I don't aim to besmirch you or to build you up or anything. I was hoping that everybody on the side of right can agree on this. Or at least ask the question, like you did in the DRF article, that where does this end? This is a flaw in the system that governs and polices harness racing, that these guys can just continue to race. And in the meantime, how much money has he made? And how much money have people lost? And how many horses suffer in the middle of it? And I'm not saying that these guys don't take care of their horses well or their barn help, because they do. There's a vested interest into that, because a horse that doesn't feel good or isn't of the proper weight, condition, whatever, is, no matter what you give him, isn't going to make you money. So they have good reason to do right by the horse while they're in their barn. What I'm saying is what happens inside of them and the risk that the horses are put to, which on the racetrack, a horse like that went down last year. If that's what, cutting out the mile and everybody goes over the top of them, then what? And then I responded back to him and basically said the things that I've been saying here, which is, I don't work for you. This isn't, I'm not here to fight like children. These people need answers. In the past 3 days on TikTok, I have 22,000 followers. Most of those were rollovers. One, I was doing the music stuff on there, and then I turned it to the Equine Advocacy Alliance page, and I had a lot of horsemen already. But in the 2 years that I've been doing that, in the last 3 days, I have had more actual horsemen combined every time I log into it and look, 3, 5, 10 at a time from across the country, who watched the trimmed video of what's happened here and what I was talking about in that first video, follow me because they're sick and tired of it, and the likes and the interactions, and they're not afraid all of a sudden. Because like I said, if they start to come out and question in groups or unified, maybe you'll get some answers and not have to worry about, are they going to take my entries next week? That's not just at your racetrack. I'm talking about everywhere else. Because is there favoritism? Yeah. And you're guilty of it too. Sorry. So in the next email back to me, he says, did you read the hearing officer logic? How can you defend the NJRC when they are useless? I thought you would look at it that way. Well, they are. But don't you think we need to somehow repair their uselessness? They have finally... they've taken this positive. Now, if Per can show otherwise, without any doubt of what happened which would exonerate him with conclusively that this wasn't his fault. And it's only the one drug, according to what I've read. What about the other two? So is that the 90 days? The two class twos get him the 90 days? But is it just coincidence that the class one was also detected with this one horse with these other two drugs? None of this makes any sense. And are you telling me that he's not willing to take the 90 days either, which apparently the NJRC doesn't even have on the table? So what is this? Where does this end? Right now, he's in the paddock in your racetrack, right? And those other guys don't stand a chance. November 3rd, 2023. Same time as the 60 Minutes special on what's going on. You said this remains a serious matter. Consequently, the Meadowlands is conducting its own internal investigation. Given these revelations, we're talking about this is the FBI stuff, and where you and not you, FBI did their own testing, sent it to Hong Kong. You got the list of all these people that are using this stuff. But from then to now, what has it accomplished? It says, to avoid any appearance of conflict and impropriety regarding a horse's eligibility to the stakes. Remember, and then you gave everybody up to December 1st, which no exclusion would be effective until that time, because this was on November 3rd, and there was still outstanding stakes to be raced. Then you said, we anticipate the Meadowlands investigation would be time consuming. We also expect that additional disclosures would be released. Well, over time, that did happen. I was doing some of that, not realizing I was basically crisscrossing the same path as you. But the trainers on the Meadowlands exclusion list were as follows. For Aretha Python, BPO, Dylan Davis, Nick DeVita, Garrett Dowse, Jeff Gillis, Brian Malone, John Mangello, Eric Prevost, Richie Silverman, Leroy Slabaugh, and Howard Taylor. We all know that they're not allowed to race still. Okay, so check off the big guy, BB3, which is what you're really talking about. Still can't race there. Thymosin, which is a protein sold to reduce inflammation, promote red blood cell growth, which basically we're talking blood builder and endurance and strength, speed to repair. Ryan Bellamy, Anthony Batista, Frank Chick, Jamin Davidovich, that's thoroughbred guy, Eddie Dennis, Brad Galliers, Rick Howells, Anthony Lake, Betty Jean Davis Lair, Kevin Laird, John Leggio, Greg McNair, Cynthia Milano, Anthony Napolitano, Howard Savage, Arthur Stafford, and Trevor Stafford. Okay. Who's racing, who's not? And then the last one, which was, I just want to make sure I say all this stuff right. Alan Unziata, the world's most well-known beard. Good job. Jen Bongiorno for ethemsalate. I always say it wrong. That's for bleeding. Her father for the same. Scott DiDomenico, he's racing there tonight. Jeff Gillis, we know he's gone. Nick Sedano Sr., I don't even know where he is. But in the case of the Bongiornos, after you let her back in, I'm told Bob's in the paddock. Jen has her own stable. Joey has his own stable. And Mom has her own horses with another trainer. So basically what you did there was turn that into 3 different stables, which technically right now, they were never... Now, well, those horses were never found positive by the NJRC of these drugs that you say that the FBI found. So you did follow through there, and in one way or another did punish these people for what they did. And this is where, again, Why is it one way for this guy, another way for this guy? How come this one can still race, this one can't? How come now this one you feel NJRC is wrong? Where did you took their 90-day, and what was the answer from Per Engblom? Did you ask him? Was he even aware of this? Or am I the first one to say it publicly and he's hearing it for the first time? I got a call the other night from a former leading driver of Tioga Downs who's no longer allowed to race there because in 2020 at Pompano Park, Bryce Cody witnessed him in the winner's circle. He won a race, and out of nowhere, Josh Marks is in the winner's circle with this gentleman. Okay, we have seen this many, many times. I saw Josh Marks out in the middle of the training track while he was banned by the USTA at Mark IV Training Center, while he was calling the shots on 60 horses stabled at his training center, screaming to people like Marks would do, and how he's the boss, listen to me, literally on the track. People would laugh. But when you think about it, it wasn't funny. We all know about the audio that I have of individuals talking about that and other connections to Josh Marks and other owners. The Beards, one of them being the person who told me about this. And when you connect the dots, there's conclusive evidence that it's true. Yet those people and individuals who even own that training center, while they are a District 8 director, are allowed to compete at your racetrack. No question. Why? You visited that farm in deposition. It was said under oath that you visited that farm trying to work out the deal on the $200,000 payment to what's his face of Monmouth Park, to secure the 2 dates for the Breeders' Crown in 2021 at the Meadowlands, paid for by the SBOANJ. That person just happened to be the owner of the farm and the president of the SBOANJ. Remember? Why? Or is that why? So this gentleman says to me, he told me the story. He said, but here's where it gets worse. He says, I tried to enter my horses at the Meadowlands, and he did. This was after they shipped back up from Pompano. And his first horse got AE2. And he got a call from Peter Koch, who was insisting that he come down to the Meadowlands and get his NJRC license. And he says, well, I haven't drawn in. I'm not going to come running down there to get licensed. I'll come down and get licensed. If I draw in the night I come down to race like everybody else does. Let's just say that's on Thursday. Friday, he gets a call from Bryce Cody. Bryce said, I want your horses and this is during COVID, out of Vernon Downs. You got 24 hours. Everyone knew back then he couldn't get out that fast, but why? Well, Josh Marks was in the winner's circle with you at at Pompano Park. We have the video. He says, yeah, well, he was also in the winner's circle with Wally Hennessy in the next race. Well, you have a connection with him, accusing this gentleman that he's connected to Josh Marks. Now, I know that's untrue, but I think in investigating sometimes we'll reach too far. But what happened here is, and I've heard the audios, basically pressing this man to play ball, and then they'll reconsider. Like there's some kind of inside informant. That's not going to happen because what they've accused this gentleman of doesn't exist. Now, they have no proof, but he's not allowed to race. Why? Why him? You have another instance of another trainer who's called me, who her husband has had issues and cannot race at Mr. Gorell's tracks. And in my opinion, rightfully so. Okay. I don't have to dislike people to just say, hey, what you did was wrong. And they're doing the right thing. But the stance, again, according to Bryce Cody, is we cannot have husband, wife, spouses beard for each other when one's in trouble for whatever reason. Yet, Simon Spicer has been on appeal for 2 years, while Veronica Spicer has been down as trainer. Why them? Why is that okay for them, Bryce? And he hasn't even served his time, his days, I guess 366 days, right? How come that's okay? How? And again, it is your playground and you can do what you want, but how is it you can say to one individual, no husband and wife, bearding for the spouse who's in trouble, but this one's okay? That's why nobody fucking trusts you. That's why I made sure that when I got dragged in by you and Jason Settlemore into that conference room, which was not a scheduled meeting, okay? It was to teach me a lesson and give me a tongue lashing. I wasn't stupid enough to walk in there unprotected. And that's why no horseman wants to come to you either for help or with any information that may help you or may exonerate themselves or throw some other dirtbag who's doing things, shoving tubes in people like the crap you got going on at Tioga, which is a complete frickin' train wreck. And you know it, that you had to have Mr. Garral go up there last summer to handle one other issue. It's just a free-for-all because nobody knows who they can trust. And it's come down to the point where you can't, Jeff, you said it best. You can't trust anybody. And I agree with you. I don't want these people to think, because I went down there and visited them and we had a nice, decent conversation. We can argue and disagree and fight, but still be the end game and the end goal is the same. I think it is. And we all make stupid mistakes along the way. We make stupid statements. I'm the prince of that. Okay. I get it. And you may attack the people that are closest to you. You may attack the people that you respect the most. But nobody ever expected this from you, Jeff. And I'm sure your reasons are good. I'm sure, like you said, if you read it, there's reason to agree with it. And there's also reason to disagree with it. But in the end, I wrote down some numbers. The top, if you went over the final standings of 2025, the top 10 trainers as of last year, when at the end of 2025, you had Ron Burke, 31 million plus, and then the rest combined $85 million. And then it just falls off the cliff. Trainers $2 million and lower as it goes past the top 10. You think that's good for the industry? And it's everything I keep talking about and what people keep saying. You know, you go to the sales, you can't buy a baby because they're buying from the breeders. It's the same breeders, same owners, same trainers. We all see it when USTA sends the girls down to do the barn reports. The baby's training down. Oh yeah, we're going to go to Alki, used to be Nancy, Burke. What about the little guys? There are no little guys, not in any numbers that makes it worth it. They can't compete even trying to purchase a better bred baby because they're playing that circle of money from the breeders to the big owners and to the big trainers. It's in a closed circle. There's no outside money coming in. They control the top stallions, the top mares, You got the president of the United States Trotting Association owns Hanover Shoe Farm. We talk about conflicts of interest. I forgot where you said you stand on that, but you got Russell Williams saying conflicts of interest and what happened was he's suing Diamond Creek. You, as owner of Meadowlands Racetrack, is contacting the NJRC directly, trying to broker a deal for a trainer who races at your racetrack that you also race at. I don't know if we've ever heard of that either. Has it happened? I don't know. You won the Hamiltonian at your own track. That became an issue because of a comment you made. You're saying that I'm making you look bad. You're making you look bad. And again, this isn't accusatory or to attack you. We don't understand. And I have never had so many people contact me openly for the first time ever. I think they've just said, we can't take it anymore. Where does it stop? The one guy that everybody looked to hoping, hey, he saved the Meadowlands. Yes, you did. He saved Vernon. That place, I heard Jason told me that people were even complaining. You're giving them new lights. They're pissing and moaning about everything. The alternative is if I was you, shut it down. I don't blame you. I don't blame you for being sour or bitter either. Tioga, your baby, you took care of it. You know that after the fact, when you're gone, I guess nobody else wants it in your family. You've already pretty much done a reverse mortgage on it, is the way I explain it to people. But that's the place you love. It is awesome. I love Tioga. Probably the two tracks I actually enjoy going to really watch the races was the one I'm banned from out here, Goshen Historic Track, where I grew up, and just for the races, and Tioga Downs. I love that place. But that doesn't get you a pass. It doesn't make you any better or worse than anybody else. I've always said he's got to do things like in any other business that you may not agree with, or may be out of the ordinary, or even bordering on, not saying illegal, but you're bending things to get things done. It's part of business. But this one, nobody understands, Jeff. And you can get angry with me. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to ban me from the business? Look up my fucking record. Pristine. I've never had a day or a fine for anything done to an animal in your industry. I was made an example of. You say you don't know. You know everything. And you know that you're just one phone call away from Bryce or Jason from getting the truth. Let me ask you this. When I was getting read the riot act in that conference room that night by your CEO, and how he was saying how, people, I'm costing the Meadowlands money. That's because you're not taking that. You, in my opinion, are the most powerful man in harness racing. Second most powerful would be Joe Feraldo. We actually talked about that the first time we met. I said to Jason Settlemore that someone that everybody respected, without any doubt, back in the day was Joe DeFrank. And I said to him, you are the new Joe DeFrank. The position is the same. He's not the race secretary, but he's in charge of trying to come up with ideas that get people to come to the racetrack, whether it's racing corgis, or chickens, or the barbecues, or the food trucks, whatever it is, because everything's changed. It's not about the racing anymore, because racing, in my opinion, is obsolete. These people don't want it anymore. They're not seeking out, as kids, all of us, Roosevelt, or wherever you went when you were younger. I'm sure it was probably Roosevelt, or even the shithole called Yonkers, or the Meadowlands. It was an event. You wanted to be there. Not anymore. But did Jason Settlemore ever look at it from my perspective that I got thrown out of here for complaining about ice, and that turned into whatever this is now, did it ever occur to you that say, well, what do you mean he got thrown? And now if we're talking to this guy, they're threatening to pull their sponsorship. Your responsibility could, or your response maybe could have been A, fuck them, or this is so childish, just make it stop. Nobody's ever done that. Did you advocate for me? I only had 3 horses. I was racing at Yonkers. I'm sorry, Monticello Raceway. One mare I took down to your racetrack at the Meadowlands, and my friend, who I'd known since he was a child, who owned the horses, his eyes, it was like a kid in front of the Christmas tree right before you hand out the presents. It's the first time he just gotten in the game, and then we had a mare that I got qualified at the Meadowlands. She couldn't compete there, but it was the Meadowlands. I remember coming off the track. She was terrible after qualifying her the first time. And I'm shot. My other buddy's laughing his ass off at me. Well, I won't name his name anymore. And I said, well, I didn't die of a heart attack. And the guy with me says, that was so cool. He says, yeah, he says, because he couldn't believe he was there. He's always wanted to own horses. And I finally, Renee, and after years, I said, no, the business, forget it. I'm never getting back in. Then things happen, things change. I had landed back in Goshen. Look up my record, pristine, never bothered anybody. I used to take care of the place. You may remember Vince Bergamo. He's the guy that called me to ask me to take over the joint when there was nobody there because they lost their help in 1987, 86, 87. And I loved it. I felt privileged that I was out here as a kid of 20 years old, 21 years old, learning from the best. Chuck Kuhn taught me how to maintain a racetrack. The cradle of the trotter. I loved the game, and I absolutely then and still do now adore the standardbred. And look at me. So, but you're fighting, and my point is there's a lot of people like me who are being punished for no reason. I don't see you advocating for them. I see you helping support keeping them going with your racetracks, but I've never seen you stand up for a guy like you've done this guy. And that's where I got to end it, and where do we go from here? And are you going to, is there going to be any change here? Or is there going to be any movement? Is this guy going to be forced by the NJRC to finally take his days? Or is this going to just hang around in state court? Where does it go after the Superior Court? He's already in the Court of Appeals. We already know that the NJRC told Don Tiger, oh, you got it reversed. You're the winner of the Meadowlands Pace. Nope, screw you. You're not. And that's it. No recourse. I don't understand. I'm not an attorney. All I know is the guy's racing tonight. You said he wouldn't be racing tonight unless he had it reversed. And then you got angry at the one person, me now, who's advocating for all these people are like, what the hell happened here? And that's where that's where we're going to end that for now. Hawthorne. A perfect example of no welfare, no racing. I don't care what anybody says. I see people talking about the ownership line. They've been trying to get a racino or some kind of subsidies. And what does it all mean? Harness racing doesn't make any money on its own. So the only way to keep Hawthorne going, so they're racing. They put out a condition sheet. You race. If your race went for $8,000 and you won, you're supposed to get a $4,000 check less your driver and trainer, right? Okay. All of a sudden, well, they're getting the checks, but they're bouncing because there's no money. Because there's no money, period. And now they want the accounting of it. It's a direct reflection of what reality is with harness racing. Unless you got somebody giving you money, your racetrack is screwed. And in the meantime, nobody's doing anything to change it because I don't think you can. It's a perfect example of a track that's failing and can't stand on its own And now they're bouncing checks. I don't think that's ever happened before. Howard Taylor, if you're watching, if your attorney watches, if you got one of your paralegals or someone watching, tell your mailroom. Third time will be Monday that they're trying to deliver my documents to you. I have it all. I have the receipts, tracking number, the delivery attempts. At 4:30, you were closed. The Cozen O'Connor was closed yesterday. I'll be sending it electronically as well and email to the to Tamar Wise. But I'm not playing games. Also, Mr. Taylor, have you figured it out yet? What I've been trying to tell you? And last year, harness racing, at the end of the year, the numbers are all there. You all see them every time you go to check entries on the USTA website. It's on the first thing under the dates. You know, the economic indicators down 8.1%, $119 million less than 2024 wagered in harness racing. That's bad. That's very bad. And that's almost a match from the comparison between 2023 and to 2024. You're losing the same amount of money every year at the same rate. And if you continue this way, tracks that are immune would be Yonkers, which I think is the shining example of welfare, $60 million. And they'll have $30,000, $40,000 purses and a handle on the race of 17,000. It's a great business model. And I think that's why the big guys are keeping as much control as they are, because they are. They're not trying, they are. And again, I got to revert back to Mr. Grau. Why would you help them? I don't understand. Is it because they do what they said? I said it in the, I think it was the DRF, that same article, that last year in January, he raced 37 different horses at the Meadowlands. So he's helping fill your box. Fine. But even Ron Burke had to serve his time. You allowed him to put his brother down, right? What's different about this guy that you yourself, Jeff Corral, owner of New Meadowlands Racetrack, whatever you call it now, chairperson, I don't believe you're not the majority owner. We all get it. But you and your partners, I've never seen you stick your neck out like this for any individual. I just don't get it. To me, the safe route would have been just stay neutral. And my other question again is, I'm going to repeat the same question. When other people, I'm going to keep watching. We all watch every Friday. USTA is good at the fines and suspensions, reporting what's happened. I want to know, at the only racetrack now in New Jersey, any positive that they detect that comes back, any positive comes back with the NJRC, will everybody be afforded the same luxury? 75% off, because 380 down to 90 is roughly one quarter, correct? And I want the same for fines. If you get a $5,000 fine, you only got to pay $1,250. That's fair, right? And the other little things like, how come if you got two people with the exact same issue who call Bryce Cody and say, it's been whatever, and we didn't do anything, and other than this, there's no proof, I am not whatever, blah, blah, blah. And he says, screw you. You're not racing here because we saw you with this certain individual. I can do a live stream that would last 5 hours about people and associations in this industry racing at your 3 racetracks. So if that holds water and that's the way you're going to govern and police, your tracks, it should be the same for everybody, right? Or is there a hypocrisy? Is there favoritism? Is there one hand washes the other? We have a right to ask because none of it makes any sense. And nobody else is going to ask because they do have something to lose. They are afraid of repercussions for standing up to you, standing up to Bryce, standing up to Jason, standing up to Shades. I don't know anything about Vernon. I don't think you're in any position to turn anyone away in Vernon. That's it. That's all I got. Next, I would finally love to hear from the Horseman. That's the one, like even in this one person made a comment in here that money buys you your pathway in harness racing. Well, we know that. Nobody ever expected it from you. And that's how I'm going to leave it for now. We'll see. Peace, everyone. Oh, Happy New Year. And good luck if you're racing at the Meadowlands. And you're just a little guy shipping it from Monticello or Saratoga. If you do beat them, more power to you.